Well, hello. Welcome to our series on financial math. We're going to start with a very simple topic today, which is simple interest. Now, simple interest, I have written up here, is a yearly charge for using money. An easy example would be a credit card because most people have credit cards. And so let's just take this easy one right here. We have a credit card where we got three charges here. We got someone bought gas, bought some clothes at a clothing store and then went to the grocery store. And so you would add up this bill and this would be your balance at the end of the month. But what most people get is a finance charge, which say in this case would be $2.99. So what happens is the credit card company, let's say this is a Visa card, charged you $2.99 for the month for allowing you to use their money because you used their money for these three objects here. And so that's the idea behind simple or behind interest in general is that it's a charge for using somebody's money. So credit card, you are being charged for using somebody else's money. Another example would be a savings account. Let's say you have a savings account and at the end of the month you have a balance of $2,500. Well, then there would be an interest of say $6.25. Now, who's being charged for this? Well, you are essentially charging the bank because you're giving them your money, and then they're taking your money and doing stuff with it. But so while you put your money in a savings account, they have to pay you because now they get to use your money. So that's how interest works. Again, it is a charge for using somebody's money. So what we're going to talk about now is simple interest. We'll talk about the formula and maybe do some examples. Okay, so let's take a look at this example here. We have $700 is borrowed at 3% simple interest. How much in interest is due after 2 years? So again, this is kind of like a watered down version of interest, and then that's kind of why it's called simple interest. But so let's say you put $750, or you borrowed $750, and you have to pay back 3% in interest after 2 years. So how much would you have? Now we have a formula for simple interest, and that formula would be right here. It's I equals PRT. Now what do these letters mean? We have I for interest, and I spelled interest wrong. Oops. We have P for principal, which is how much money you are either borrowing or how much you currently have in your account. You have the R for interest rate, and then T for time. Now it's measured in years, which means if you have like 6 months, you'll have to convert it to years, which is half a year. 18 months, that would be 1.5 years. So let's take a look at this example. We have a principal or amount borrowed, which is P, which is going to be $750. We have an interest rate, which is 0.03. All interest rates, when using them in calculations, should be written as a decimal. And then we have T, which is the number of years, which in this case would be 2. And so the amount of interest is going to be 750 times 0.03. I'm just going to use parentheses so you can see the difference. Principal here, we have the interest rate, and then time right there. So plug that into your calculator, and you'll get $45. So that means if you were to borrow this money at simple interest, it means after 2 years, you should be paying the person you borrowed the money from $45. Our next example, we have suppose you lend a friend $2,000 at 5% simple interest. How much do they owe you at the end of the 5 years? Let's assume that they're going to pay you back all at that, like at the end of the 5th year, that last day, they send you a check. Well, how much should that check be? Well, let's figure this out. No matter what, they have to pay you back $2,000, right? That's given, right? They borrowed $2,000 from you, so they got to pay that back. But they're also going to be paying back interest, simple interest. Okay, so how much did they pay in interest? Well, we're going to have our principal, which is $2,000. We have an interest rate of 0.05. Remember, write it as a decimal. And T, measured in time, or I'm sorry, measured in years, which would be 5 years. And so our interest would be to multiply all these three together. So 2,000 times 0.05 times 5. That's going to equal $500. Okay, so this is the interest, but remember that they also have to pay you back the original amount, and that's called the accumulated amount. Now we have kind of a simple version of the formula right here, where accumulated amount, which is the overall amount you owe, which we label as A, accumulated amount, which would be the original principal, right, the $2,000, and then this here would be interest. So in this case, our accumulated amount is going to be the original balance of $2,000, our original principal, $2,000, plus the $500 that they owe you in interest, and you should be getting a paycheck at the end of that a check, I don't know, paycheck, a check for $2,500. So again, there's your kind of introduction to simple interest, and we had two formulas. We have our simple interest formula, which is I equals P, principal, times your interest rate, times time, again, T in years. And the accumulated amount would be A equals your principal plus the interest. Now, we do kind of change this around a little bit, and instead of using I, we use PRT, because again, that's the formula for interest. And if you're familiar with algebra, notice that both these terms have a P. You can factor that out, and what's left is P, and then in parentheses 1 plus RT. So another formula for accumulated amounts, but you can also use this one up here.